What's going on, everybody? Aaron Trevino here, back with another wonderful guest. We have Brandon Schwab from McHenry, Illinois. How you doing today, Brandon?
Hey man, I'm awesome.
Absolutely. I know this has been in the works for a little bit. We messaged, and I found what your line of work to be very interesting.
Thank you.
So for those of us who aren't familiar with you, would you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, sure. Well, I have been self-employed from the age of about 15. Today, I operate a company that cares for the elderly. We have 5 homes that are 10 to 20 people per home. I've been doing that for 8 years, and I actually opened up a fund this April. Our fund brings capital in to open up homes that are 10 to 20. So I operate both the homes every day, but I also open a fund to help investors be part of an industry. And we kind of handle everything from A to Z. Chicagoland area. I'm about an hour from downtown. Been doing it for 8 years. Kind of got into it kind of by accident. I didn't really intend to do it. My 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 family member had some health issues and ended up in a pretty big 100 to 200 type place and didn't get very good care. It was a pretty terrible experience, and the odor was bad, and the overall atmosphere was terrible. And that's kind of how I got into it. Was I saw how terrible the industry is, and about 6 years later, I was down in Florida and got exposed to a 5-person home, and I said, this is cool. I haven't ever heard of this. So I came back home and I opened it up in 2014. We bought our first house at the end of 14, opened it in the end of 15, and filled it in February of 17, and have opened up homes ever since. So we are trying to change the industry, kind of to turn things upside down.
Sure, absolutely. And I know you touched on it briefly how you got into the business, but I'm curious about your background. Maybe growing up, did you ever see yourself in doing any sort of real estate, or what did you see back then?
I opened up my first business detailing cars, boats, and RVs when I was 15 years old. It was actually a class project in high school. When I got out of high school, I continued to do that. I actually opened it up and did it full time, and thought I had everything figured out. And I honestly thought I owned a company, right? I was so led to believe that if you operate a company that you own something. Like I thought I had an asset, and I quickly figured out after the 2008 crash that I didn't own anything. In fact, I was owned by it because I was working 60, 70, 80 hours a week. And at the end of it, I couldn't put it up for sale, and I didn't have anyone that was willing to pay for it. So I quickly figured out that the last 14 years I put into the business, I didn't own anything. And what I thought is accurate didn't turn out to be accurate, and I did not own any assets. So I got into like real estate because I cleaned cars and RVs for people that had tons of cash, and I found that to be the common thread of all of them that had like the coolest toys that I was able to take care of. And I was like, well, if I'm going to figure out how to do something else, I need to find out who has like what I am looking for. And I talked to those guys, and I began by actually doing property. I did property preservation for them for probably 2 years, cleaning, clearing, painting. I did anything, right? After 2008, I was like, I need to find something else. And 2010, I said, I can do what they've done. And I got into like wholesaling in 2010, did that for a few years, and learned how find to find like opportunities, and also find out how to talk to people. In 2012 to 14, I began building a portfolio. I had about 23 homes by the end of 14. I kind of thought I was an expert. I founded a club of investors. I was teaching people how to do it. We had about 100 people to come out each month, and I kind of thought I had it all figured out until July of 14, when I went down to Florida and I saw a 5-person home was maybe 2,800 feet that outperformed all 23 homes I had 2 times a month. And I said, so maybe I have to be open and minded to figure out something else, because that was a cooler concept of how you care for the elderly than I've ever seen. So at the time, I kind of felt ignorant and I didn't have any clue what it was. And I came back home and I said, I'm going to get into this. Our county's got 308,000 people and they didn't have any of these homes in the whole county. And I said, I'm going to figure this out. I got in, I opened our first house, and I quickly figured out I needed to find somebody that had the experience of operating it. So I partnered up with a lady that was in the healthcare field for 38 years, and that was about 7 years ago. So it's kind of how I got in from a 500-foot overview. Investing didn't come into play until 2010. Back before that, I was operating a company, working tons of hours, 78 hours a week. And, I figured out that what I thought was true just was not,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
thank you for that insight there. And what I'm really curious about it, above all, it sounds like you had some sort of I don't know if you call it an epiphany, but some sort of mindset shift almost. And you made an interesting comparison between, you owning the business versus you finding out, hey, the business actually owns you.
Yeah. So not a lot of people ask me on that question. So I'm going to make sure I answer it, but like, I don't want to get in too deep because sometimes I've gone to tears on this topic, but
Mm.
so let me hit it quickly. Cause I don't want to turn off anyone that's hearing this. So I was working a ton, our son was getting into travel, or he was getting into play baseball. He was 4.5. And I realized that I wasn't home enough to like be more of an active part in his life. And I had a portfolio of 23 homes, and I did what they taught us to do, go get a portfolio of homes, and in 15, 20, 30 years, you'll own them and everything's good. But when fortune builders taught me all of that, what they didn't tell me was when people don't pay the rent, when you have to evict people, when you have to be the ugly guy. And I had one eviction that I'm going to make sure I talk quickly, that all three of their kids, or all their kid clogged all three toilets. And there was a finished basement that backed up. And I handled the eviction myself and I trashed out the whole house. And when I went home, my son wanted to play catch. And what I didn't tell you was the basement backed up with like pee and poo. Like, it was disgusting. Like, I hated life and I questioned what I was doing the whole time, the whole day. And when I came home, like, I just wanted to like don't talk to anyone. I wanted it to just don't talk to anyone. Like, to just get some alcohol, like, and just don't, like, just be quiet. But like, our kid was like 5 and he wanted to play catch, and kids are great, but kids are persistent. And he's like, dad, dad, dad. And I remember like he was bothering me that like I snapped at him. And it was like, a dude, stop, not today. And like, I've never talked to him like that before. And his face was like almost fear in his eyes. And like, that was the day. Pivot point. And I said, never doing this shit again. And I said, I need to get into something else. I sold the detail company because I was doing that part-time. I was investing, like I was trying to like do it all. And I said, I'm never doing that crap again. And it took that day of snapping, because the thing that I found was when I had properties, I had to be the guy that would collect people to pay me, right? And at first, so like my personality was too easy for people to take advantage of me, right? And I had some tenants that figured that out. And when they had kids, like, I'd hear anything they told me and be like, yeah, it's fine, just pay me later. Well, when I had 5 people out of 23 that didn't pay me, then the kids that I had did not eat either. So I quickly learned that I needed to become a little bit meaner of a person. And so I didn't like that because it was on a direct conflict of who I was personally. And it just took me down this deep path that I did not like who I had to become to get paid. And so I just had some challenges and I didn't like that eviction and who I had to be. And when I exploded at him, I quickly said, I need to get into something else because clearly I'm not cut out for collecting this. And So maybe I ought to have just outsource that piece, but like our passive income was only 5,000. I think it was 5,400 each month. Like it was too thin to pay somebody 10%. Like it would have taken all of the earnings. And I said, that's crazy. I don't think I'll do that. I was just being cheap. And that pivot point for me was like clear as day. And I said, nope, I'm done. I closed the car and boat business after 14 years. And I said, I'm going to figure this out. And, that's how I get in. It's crazy.
Absolutely. No, I appreciate the insight. And I guess, after all of that, you sell the business, you kind of go your own way. What brings you down to Florida? I guess Florida was kind of where you learned some sort of concept to bring back to Illinois, or how did that work?
Yeah, so I've been together with Kelly now for 15 years. Her family's from Florida. So I am able to kid and I tell people that I got her to come up from Florida, and I was very thrilled I did that. Her family's down there, and her dad is a chiropractor as of 30 or 35 years. And what her dad does with his free time is he plays the piano at the old folks home. So when we would go down to Florida, I would try to avoid going because every time I'd go to all of the shows, it'd be in these huge places. It would take me back to the day when I got exposed to it personally, our family didn't get very good care. And every time I'd go to all the shows, it would take me back to those feelings of like, get me the hell out of here. Like, I hate going here. And one of his shows in July of 14 was in a house, and I was down in Florida for family. We pulled our 33-foot Formula 336 down to Florida, and we were down there by Tampa hanging out, having a good time. And when we go down, we typically try to talk to her family every time. Well, he does 328 shows per year. Now, Aaron, the part that's painful is he does the same thing over and over. And they're painful because you hear the same jokes over and over. And I try to get out like, hey, Kelly, can I clean? Can I cook? Like, is there anything I can do that I don't have to go? Please don't make me go. She gives me this look that's kind of like, you're going to go or else. And I don't know what that or else is. And I don't want to tempt her because it could be bad for me. So I went and we pulled up to a house, and it was like a house with houses on each side. It was maybe a 2,800-foot, 5-bedroom, 3.5 type house. And so I've seen them over and over. And I was like, text your dad, where the hell are we at? Because typically down in Florida, they tend to have them up 10 floors, 12 floors, full of elderly. And I hated the odor, the atmosphere. And I've got a F450 truck, so it is terrible trying to find parking. And we go into this house, and I'm like, arms crossed, like kind of like feeling I felt dumb that I haven't ever heard of this before. And I go in, and he plays his piano, and I'm just going like, what the heck is this place? I haven't ever heard of it before. They had 5 people in there. They didn't have any odor. And I grabbed the girl in charge, and I was like, hey, how much do people pay to be here? Like 1,500 or 2,000 per month? Because that's what I thought people were able to pay. And she did this eye thing where like her eyes came down like this and just goes, huh, and kept on walking. She didn't even answer me, Aaron. Like I felt like insulted, like,
Yeah.
and just kept walking. I was like, did I ask her a question? Because I thought I did, and that evening, just my brain, like I couldn't turn it off. My brain was just like a high, like just going, right? So I call her the day after, and I was like, hey, I was probably too high. Do you think you could tell me how much they actually pay? Because the whole evening I was just thinking about it. And this girl goes, Brandon, I'm sorry. I thought you were kidding. They begin at 5,200 a month.
Wow.
And my brain was like, what did she just say? Like, so I heard her, but I instantly began computing like 5 people times 5,200. That's $26,000. I've never seen a single family house bring in $26,000 a month. Right? I've got a portfolio of 23 homes, and the highest was 2,200. I've never seen 26,000. So I'm driving home from Florida. We're pulling our boat, and I'm somewhere in Tennessee or Kentucky somewhere. It's 2 a.m, pulling our boat. And I figured out the expenses. If you add 20 or 30% to everything, the expenses would not top 15,000 a month. And I said, holy crap, Brandon, you've been working 4 years, working your butt off to build this portfolio that brings in a passive income of 5,400 a month. And you just witnessed a house with 5 people in it that outperformed it 2 times a month. Man, did I say, holy crap. Like it's like humbling, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm open to learn. And I said, that's a great business. They have to have them all over back at home. Came home in a county of 308,000 people, couldn't find one. I said, all right. So I go to our investment club, right? 110 people. I go up in front of everyone and I'm like, hey, I've got 23 homes, tenants in all of them. Who's interested? And it was dead quiet. They thought I was kidding. And I sold 22 of the 23 in about 32 days. Gone.
Yeah.
And they're like, he's serious. Like, yeah, he's doing this. And I jumped in. I bought a house in a town of 832 people. Now, granted, Aaron, you're in huge towns where you have hundreds of thousands, right?
Mm-hmm.
Corpus has got to have what, 50, 60, 80,000 people?
320.
Holy crap. So I'm in a town of 832 people,
Mm-hmm.
right? Not exactly a awesome MSA town, right? 832 people. It's a farming town with a household income of 85,000. I bought a house that was on the MLS for 500 days. That it was 4,880 feet on the first floor. It was a financial planner that built an office onto his house that was 2,800 feet, 2,000 on top of. So I was, yeah, cool, perfect. So buy. So I offered owner carryback financing, full price offer, or half of his asking price in cash. He took the cash offer. Holy crap, here we go. Got into it, invested $550,000 into the house. So I over rehabbed the heck out of it, because when I was building it, I said, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this how it ought to be done. And I don't cut corners. I'm going to do it how it ought to be done. And we invested $550,000 into it. I had one partner at the time, and he helped with about 300 grand. I put in 225, and we opened it up. And then I operated it for 5 years. We figured out, screwed up a ton of things for the first couple of years. I learned. I'd fix things. And I filled it in February of 17, and I was grossing about 55,000 of income. My expenses were 28 to 32,000, and I was netting about 20 grand a month. And I said, holy crap, it worked. Went and I got it appraised by Cushman and Wakefield, and they gave me a 13% cap rate. It appraised at $1.8 million. And I was like, holy cow, it worked. So like, that's how I got into it. It's fun. It's cool. I had a blast doing it. I've learned a ton. I've goofed up on a ton of things. I've learned, I've changed. I've been doing it for 8 years. So COVID was a test. Fast forward to today, I've got 5 homes up and operating. I got 2 homes pending, and I've got 7.2 acres of land in Huntley, and I'm going to build on. So like, we're doing everything from buying existing homes and converting, buying dirt and able to put up our home. And we're also purchasing the existing operators that have homes that are up and operating, maybe got their butt kicked by COVID a bit. And we're buying at a good cap rate. I typically buy at about a 14% cap. And we're not buying at a 3 or 4% cap rate like everyone else is I think the apartment guys I talked to last were buying at a 3 and 4% cap rate. I'm just like, if your debt's 5, I don't get it. We buy at a 14% cap rate. I hold for 6 to 12 months, and I do take out financing at an 8. You figure that out, we can paper profit some millions of dollars. So that's That's what we do. Excited. Our funds is a huge piece of that. I was trying to buy a portfolio last year and I failed. Cost me $85,000. Have you ever bought something for 85,000 and just never got anything in return for it? Car, boat, RV. Yeah. So I paid 85 grand for an experience that got me to not be as involved with operations and focus on opening a fund. Have you ever heard that quote that says, you need to dig your like well before you actually need water?
Okay. Yeah.
So I didn't do that. So I was good at finding investors that thought it was an awesome asset class to get into, and I had access to them, and that's what we did. We found partners and we expanded, and we were buying a big portfolio of 7 homes and 55 beds. That would have 2x'd our portfolio literally overnight.
Mhm.
And I didn't get it done because I didn't have the cash on hand. So I was going through the SBA, thought I was gonna get very cheap financing. It was like it's like 90-10 type financing,
Mhm.
like at 2.5% interest, like super cheap. And there was another person that came in behind me and offered 14 million for something I offered 12.5, and they all of a sudden did not want to talk to me anymore. And I realized I needed to close quickly with cash, and I could not bring in capital that quickly. So I said, I'm never going to do that again. And that was able to teach me I need to go build a fund. So I opened up it's like real estate. It's a real estate debt fund. It's a 506c for accredited investors that I am able to advertise. And we're talking to people this way. I mean, it's something that I never want to have an opportunity that I can buy at a 14% cap and not close on it because of access to cash, So that's kind of what I'm doing today, which is fun, is that I learned from that failure. Some people would get pissed because they were able to lose 85 grand. I said, that is never going to happen over, and I am going to learn from that. And I opened our fund, something that I've been thinking of doing for probably the last 2 or 3 years anyways. I just did not have a need or a urgent to go through that pain. That change was not bad enough because I was always able to find partners. And so
Sure, absolutely. And it's interesting how kind of that initial pain is what leads to something else. No one wants to lose 85 grand, but at the end of the day, maybe you learned a valuable lesson that, carries on right now.
at that time, I got a bill from our attorney that was 125,000. I thought we were going to pay that when we were able to close. Well, when we didn't close, I was scrambling because I didn't have 125,000. And I said, well, what are we going to do? Because I plan to purchase other homes going forward. And I worked out a deal where I paid 10 grand a month until it was paid off. And those were expensive checks. I mean, they were $10,000 each for 8.5, and that was expensive. And I said, if I take anything out of this overall experience, is that I need to learn so this never happens over. And I've been proactively talking on how this has happened. And when people hear it, I mean, quite a bit of people today have capital today parked where they just aren't earning any money on, or inflation's chewing up all their cash, where a lot of folks kind of had their hands under their feet, not really doing anything because they weren't positive what was going on. And that created fear, right? And I am able to get that. And I think we're coming off a time frame where last year, crypto, man, it was exploding. People were making 20%, 30% each month. And they were like, they were not interested in the ROIs that a tangible asset could offer. They're like 8%, 10% targets. Those are nothing. Like, who the heck would do that? Ha ha ha. And now today, people are like, yeah, where are those tangible assets, because those are the deals that I'm trying to find. Like, even if you can just keep up with inflation, people are looking for tangible assets. And I feel like our asset class is a great place that people don't know a ton on. And I think they're learning that this asset class is a very good place to be, because it takes assets right here, and it also combines them with a healthcare industry, right? And puts them together. And that's what's exciting, because those two pieces together are exciting, because those are good places to be. If you look at the elder count population that are here today, that are coming, they tell us by 2050, we need to produce 600,000 new places to care for the elderly just to keep up.
Mm.
And if COVID taught us anything, our healthcare system it barely kept up with that. So there's a lot of opportunity, and I feel thankful that I have an opportunity to be part of that. And I'm really thrilled that I get to kind of offer a different alternative option for the elderly that don't have to go to these big 100 to 200 type places that are going to have the odor. And a thing that is pretty sad is the typical caregiver has to care for 20 to 30 people in those places. And that's what creates the odor. And unfortunately, that odor is because people are going to have accidents in their pants and they don't get changed in time. And that actually causes people to get hurt and actually pass before they need to. So I use technology to keep that from happening. And I feel like we're like the Uber that changed the taxi industry. The Uber had a very good idea. They knew how to use technology. They didn't do anything too crazy different. They just changed who was doing it. And I kind of feel that's what we're doing, where the taxi cab industry is these big 100 to 200 bed places that, they've had a pretty good for 20, 30, 40 years. That's how things have been done. But like what we do is different, and they're not changing. Just how the taxi cab industry, in order to call one, you used to be taxi, taxi. That's kind of like pushing your car. Flintstones, right? Like, we have evolved. Taxi is ancient. Now today we are able to use our phones, and we are using technology, and it is changing the whole industry. Like, we're doing that to change the industry, to help the elderly have a better final chapter on the earth here. Like, and I feel that like that's a great purpose that feels awesome. I could have actually been done on our first house. Our first house, we were able to charge 20,000 per month. I mean, I only needed half of that to do everything that I had to do in life. Like, I was fine with that. And I continue to invest 10,000 each month since 2017 back into the business, over and over and over, for 8 years. And here we are today, where it isn't on earning anymore. It's about, how do I change the industry so it's like no one has to do that without the options to choose. Now, our homes aren't for everybody. We charge about 6,000 to 6,500 each month, and not everyone can do that, right? But one of the things I'll tell you is, don't get old, and if you do, have tons of funds, because if you're old and don't have funds, life is not good for you. You get really poor care in the federally paid for housing buildings. And if you have any question, go to there, and the odor is going to tell you that people aren't getting changed. And that's what causes issues, because picture if you were in a giant pool for an hour. Okay. Picture 2 hours. Your tissue on your hands it is able to change. Now picture you're 85 and that happens. But compared to your hands, it's on your tush, right? When you have an accident in your pants and you're too too proud to ask for help, you're going to sit in it. And when the help doesn't have time to get to you, you're going to sit in it. And that tissue gets really, really thin. when you turn and it tears, it gets infected. And that infection actually causes more people passing than you would believe. And it's over 50%. So if you can fix one simple problem, if a person that used to clean cars and also it's like RVs for 14 years can figure out how to change that one problem to keep people from passing, we can change an industry. So I don't have any fancy anything. I just find issues and I figure out how to fix them. And I use technology just like Uber. And I know our plan to expand is going to change the industry coast to coast. Aims to have 3,000 homes by 2030, 300 homes by 2025. And we are using our fund to help us have that happen.
Sure thing. I love to hear it. And, you made an interesting point earlier, kind of suggesting that it's not to a point, it's only about the money, but, you're kind of talking about the lasting impact, using technology and really kind of leaving something behind.
So I used to clean cars and also RVs. Like there was no purpose to that. At the end of the day, if they didn't come to me, they would have gone elsewhere, right? There was no impact. I didn't have any people coming to me and going, "Oh my God, thank you, hug." No. But today I have families that are kids that come up to us crying and they thank me for everything that we've done, that we gave their family extra time that they like would not have had if it isn't for like that's purpose. And that's what I figured out that I'm here to do is that I will take action when I don't have everything all figured out. A lot of people today I see overanalyze things and never take action. And I feel bad for them because they could do awesome things. I will jump out of the airplane and I'll figure out how to put things together before I hit Earth. Like that's how he put me. And I can use those talents. And I jumped into an industry that I didn't have any experience. In fact, if I'm being completely transparent, when Kelly was pregnant with our first kid, when we went to go find out if it was a boy or girl, the nurse needed to give me apple juice and graham crackers because I was this close to passing out. Now, I don't have any healthcare past. Like I probably just shouldn't be in it because I'm terrible at it. Like I couldn't do what our team is able to do. Our team that is able to do it, we've got the top team in the whole, because they do awesome things. They care for people when people can't help themselves. And that's when you truly tell if you are a good person, is when a person can't help themselves. Like it's like when and I got into it, but I figured it out. Like, and that's what's really cool on this is that purpose is more meaningful than earning any day. Now, how I am doing it, Aaron, is actually the hardest way possible. If you look at our industry, 100 to 200 people per place, like that's efficient. That's a good idea. You can earn awesome money doing that. And I said, that's bullshit. I am not going to do that. I hate that industry. I hate that. So then I took the concept and I chopped it up into 10 to about 20 people per home. And I said, I will figure out the overhead piece. I'll figure it out. And it's hard. Like COVID was rough on me. Like I went from having a credit of about 780 to about 600 because when COVID got tight, like unfortunately, I did not get personally taken care of until everyone else does. So as the biggest person for equity, when there isn't anything and the asset doesn't perform, I don't get paid. And that was hard at some times. Like I got comfortable with having access to and during COVID, I didn't like that is humbling. But to continue to do it even when things are tough, because you know that the purpose that you're doing is awesome, even when it would be easier to own a place with 100 to 200 beds. They earn 100 to 200,000 per month. I'm trying to do 10 beds, 10 beds, 10 beds, 15 beds, 15, 15 to add up to 200. That's hard. So I finally figured out after 8 years, because it takes me time to figure things out, that I needed to scale up. And I was either going to expand or else weren't going to pull through. And I said, I need 12 houses like ASAP. And I wasn't going to get there how I was doing it. So like a lot of cool things, purpose. And I think when you see the people that are in our homes, like they're awesome. Like I feel thankful to have the opportunity to give them the type of care that they ought to have, and that I can earn what I do today based off of that. Like that feels really good.
That's incredible. I mean, it's not only a story of, obviously faith and courage, but, of self-awareness too, for you to kind of assess, hey, this is where I'm at. This is where I want to be. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I find that if I can continue to keep on doing things like over and over, like I will hear, and then if things aren't able to turn out good, then I go, well, so let's try over here, and just keep doing that over and over until you figure it out. But the key is you can't ever quit going. If anyone that wasn't positive to be in this industry, COVID probably kicked them out, or they're thinking twice on putting up for sale. If that is you, call me, because I am looking to purchase. Selfless plug, but there was people that tried to copy us, and they're not doing very well because they didn't have the heart to really get through that. So when you go through those trials, you will figure out if you have what it takes to do it or not. I mean, this is not easy. If anyone asks to talk to me after this, and if they're interested to do this industry, I would tell you don't. Like, it's harder than I thought. And I thought I was able to do almost anything. And it's been a humbling experience. So if anyone's thinking of doing it, don't do it. And if you do, just hear me that I told you don't do it. So then if you go, hey, this is a bad idea, you could say, well, that guy told me don't do it. But that's a whole other topic.
Yeah, absolutely, Brandon. Well said. Maybe, someone's listening to this, they've learned a lot, a bit about your background, a bit about senior living. Are there any last words you'd like to leave our listeners?
Lots of last words. I mean, I read a book by Steve Cook that was really impactful on my life to give me the courage to quit doing what I was doing with the industry. I'll actually add it to the chat. It's called Life in Air by Steve Cook.
Steve Cook. Okay.
That book was a game changer. When I read it, I honestly felt like he was talking on me. Like that person in that book was like, the person was me. And it was kind of haunting because I was like, crap, like how? And that helped me change and put the focus on my family. And this business has given me the opportunity that I've coached Jeffrey's baseball team ever since the day when he was 5. And I've coached travel baseball since he was 8. He's 15 now. And if anyone knows travel anything, you get that it's crazy. Like April through August, we're gone literally every single weekend. And I literally could not have done what I do today if I was cleaning cars, boats, and RVs. And I'm so thankful because all of us that have kids under 18, like it's a great book because it opens your eyes that you only have about 18 years to be part of what they have, and then they're gone. And I'm thankful that I've coached Jeffrey for 8 years, and everything back behind me is going to be opportunities that I've had to coach him in. And yes, I probably could have opened up 10, 20, 30 houses by this point, and I only have 5, and I'm fine with that. I actually don't really care, because I've had time to be with him that I will always be thankful for. And don't overanalyze things. Just do it. Find a person that has what you're looking for and figure out how you can help them, even if they don't pay you anything. That time and is find a good coach that has what you're trying to do. Because if you think the cost of whatever they charge you is going to be costly, try doing it on your own. I'll guarantee you it's 10 times. And I could tell you that from experience. I did buy an upfront course from a guy in California. It cost me $850. It got me going. I ended up purchasing that company about 5 years later because I considered for an instant that I was going to get into coaching people. So if anyone gets to this point of this conversation, and if you are in the healthcare field, and if you would like to get into the industry, I will give you a free gift that I paid $850 for free. If you send an email to Victoria at Victoria at Boutique Senior Living Fund.com and ask her for the ebook. So if anyone got to this point, if you're like, hey, cool, teach me how, don't call me because I won't teach you, but I will give you this book for free. And you can figure things out if you are interested. So that's probably more than a couple final words, but I felt that that was impactful because I think if you find passive income, you will find the time freedom to go do whatever you want. And I feel like that's what people are after at the end of the day, is to have time freedom is what everyone's after. So if I can help you get that by going through those couple opportunities, I will definitely help you do that. I feel it's something I'm very thankful for to have, and a person told me. So yeah.
Absolutely. Well said, Brandon. Again, I appreciate, all of your insight. I think that was wonderful. And, really that freedom really speaks to people, whether you're, young or old, single, married, doesn't matter. I think we're all in a sense kind of striving for the same thing. So that can really hit home.
Thank you.
No, absolutely. So we've talked a lot about your background, a bit about your business, also how to make money in the senior living space. Brandon, I greatly appreciate your time, and, thank you so much for coming on the show. We'll have, how to contact you in the video description, and appreciate you coming on.
All right, buddy. Perfect. Thank you very much.
Talk to you later.